New Year's Eve turned into a terrible tragedy for a 3-year-old girl, changing her life forever. She fell into the hands of a maniac who tortured her relentlessly, recording horrifying acts on camera. This is the story of how an innocent online conversation can lead to irreversible consequences, shocking the world. Alicia Kazakevich was born on March 23, 1988 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Her life had everything one could dream of: loving parents, caring older brother, and promising future. In 2001, when she was 13 years old, her brother introduced her to the world of the internet. Soon Alicia became fascinated with chat rooms that allowed people from all over the world to communicate freely. In a Yahoo chat room, she met a peer whom she quickly developed feelings for. They constantly communicated, did homework together, and shared details about their lives with each other. Alicia sought advice from her new friend and confided in him about her worries and sometimes complained about her parents. The boy always entertained her and supported all of her interests. The computer through which Alicia accessed the internet was located in the living room so that family members could always see what she was doing. To avoid constant monitoring, she started going online at night when everyone else in the family was asleep. This went on for almost a year, and Alicia felt like she was on cloud 9 with happiness because it seemed like she had found kindred spirit. Their conversations increasingly revolved around meeting in person, as they no longer felt satisfied with just communicating online. Here arose their main problem. At only 13 years old, Alicia couldn't tell her parents that she wanted to meet someone from the internet without their knowledge. It would be practically impossible for them not to notice if she left home to meet him alone. That's when he proposed an ideal solution. He would come to pick her up from home on New Year's Eve while everyone was distracted by the festivities, and they would finally meet in person. For Alicia, this plan was simply perfect. What could be better than a romantic meeting on New Year's Eve? On December 31, 2001, the family gathered for a festive dinner. Parents, grandmother, brother, and his girlfriend. Friends, everyone was there. Before dessert, Alicia told her mother that she wasn't feeling well and left the table. Her parents thought she would go to her room briefly and then return. But Alicia had other plans. Unnoticed by anyone in the house, she left home and ran down the street towards her Prince Charming. At that moment, she wondered why he wanted to meet specifically on New Year's Eve. Surely it was to give her a pleasant surprise gift. She ran while imagining how their first date would unfold. Very soon, though, her romantic mood turned into slight anxiety as she found herself standing alone in a dark street with no one around. In that moment, she realized just how dangerous and reckless it had been to leave her home like that. Alicia decided to turn back, but suddenly heard someone calling out her name. At that point, she thought running away would be foolish, so instead she headed towards whoever called out to her. The rest of what happened seemed like a blur to her. Next thing she knew is that she was inside a car being driven by some man whose face became visible after 5 hours of driving. He was an adult man. By the description, she didn't look anything like the guy she was chatting with. It didn't make sense. It seemed like it couldn't get any worse. Suddenly, he grabbed her by the hands, pulled her out of the car, threw her into the basement, and chained her up. He looked into her eyes, smirked maliciously, and said, "You are going to have a really bad time now, so you can cry if you want." The next 4 days turned into a real hell for the girl. The kidnapper subjected her to violence, tortured her, and recorded everything on camera. He immediately shared the videos on sadistic forums and sometimes brought his friends to his house and let them have their way with Alicia. All this time, she only dreamed of one thing: survival. One day, the sadist told her that he would leave home and return in the evening. He added that he was starting to fall in love with the girl, and Alicia realized that he planned to kill her that night. Meanwhile, FBI made huge efforts to find Alicia. At some point, they were contacted by an anonymous man from Florida who had watched a video of abuse against a girl online. He was afraid that he could be arrested as an accomplice, so he decided to help law enforcement agencies locate the victim. To do this, he provided them with login under which rapists published videos. FBI quickly traced IP address and then location of house in Herndon, Virginia. A SWAT team immediately headed there. Upon hearing noise and screams, Alicia was horrified. She thought that someone had been ordered by kidnapper to kill her. But within seconds, the door swung open, and a girl saw FBI's rescue sign on their clothes. The following few days, poor girl remained in shock and could hardly speak. At first, she was taken to hospital, Later, to police station. In Thward, where she was placed for examination, Alicia noticed a dollhouse. Suddenly she realized that the victims of violence were much younger children. Before meeting her parents, Alicia was confused. The girl thought that she had done something wrong and her family no longer loved her. Of course, she was mistaken. Reuniting with mom and dad became one of the happiest events in her life. The kidnapper was arrested half an hour after the girl's rescue at his workplace. He turned out to be 38-year-old Scott William Tyree. He was born in 1963, received a high school education, and lived a quite ordinary life. Tyree had been married twice. Both ended in divorce. His first wife described him as a classic programmer who was passionate about science fiction and games. Prior to his arrest, he had never had any legal problems, but there is one detail in his biography that is truly shocking. Tyree had a daughter from his second marriage, just 1 year younger than Alicia. She lived with him during winter vacation and went home on the very day when he went after his victim. After Alicia's rescue, she faced another serious trial. Despite having all the necessary evidence, the court forced the girl to relive all that horror again. She had to watch videos where they tortured her for days and confirm that it really happened to her. From court's perspective, it was an extremely reckless demand to subject psyche of the young girl like this. But she agreed. In September 2003, the court rendered its verdict. Tyree was sentenced to 19 years and 7 months in prison. In February 2019, he was released on parole, but he was placed under constant surveillance in a house, which caused a wave of outrage across America. The correctional system chose a house for him in Pittsburgh, where Alicia lived. Ordinary people, and even members of Congress, demanded that the sadist be kept away from the victim. The situation resolved itself, albeit temporarily. In October 2019, Tyree violated the conditions of his early release and went back to prison for another 2 years. As for Alicia, that dollhouse from the hospital room did not give her peace. She understood the danger that the internet posed to children, and at the age of 14, she decided to dedicate her life to their protection. To some extent, this saved her as well, because fighting for a good cause and having a goal allowed her to distract herself from the tragedy that could have broken even the strongest individuals. Now 35 years old, Alicia works as a lawyer defending people who have suffered at the hands of rapists and kidnappers. She has also founded her own project helping teenagers realize the dangers of social media networks. Throughout her journey, Alicia experienced trust issues. Childhood trauma almost killed her faith in people's care and sincerity. But once again, Alicia managed to overcome such a difficult barrier, and now she is happy in marriage. Despite this happy ending, this story evokes mixed feelings. Since Alicia Kazakevich's tragedy, 2 decades have passed, but child vulnerability on the internet hasn't gone anywhere. On contrary, with technological advancements, it is more relevant than ever before. The internet gives people freedom, which they all handle differently. Governments around different countries pass laws and impose restrictions, but it doesn't change anything about the situation. The story of the little girl from Pittsburgh is a bitter but necessary lesson for everyone, regardless of age. Perhaps it will help children and their parents avoid tragedy just as Alicia herself helps now.